in answer to many questions that we've had in past occasions of people coming up to me and say, well, what can I do, or what can be done by us to make a difference? Can I help other patients? Are there other places where I can get awareness? Are there support groups, as we just heard, a need for support groups? And how do we get the work done? How do we do the research? How do we fund the research? I thought I'd just start and just briefly address funding. The research that we presented is funded either by the government, the NIH, or the National Cancer Institute, or it's funded by foundations, the Caring for Carcinoid Foundation, American Cancer Society, Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, other foundations that are both patient advocacy groups and groups that get together to try to fund research on different diseases. Or it's from philanthropy, whether it's $50 from grateful patients or $1 million for a building, everything in between. That's how the research gets done. Or it's from contracts, and contracts with companies who have vested interests in developing a certain drug and want research then on a contractual basis to be performed at a place like Stanford, UCSF, et cetera. So there are finite sources of funding, and in this time of government stalemate, I should say, and the recession has hit us hard, there are decreasing funds from the NIH, and therefore, for rare tumors, we kind of get pushed down to the bottom. Now, there are clinical trials, as Pam was mentioning. Clinical trials are still going on, in part because we have young, eager people to push them through the system. And it's to Pam's credit, Dr. Bergsland's credit, that we have a number of these trials up and running and more slated to run. But the basic research that gets that comes from the lab and then that eventually gets translated to clinical trial, that's a different story. We need scientific funds for that, and those are always a struggle. I thought maybe I'd have Liz just to mention a few words about herself, and I'll let you introduce yourself and say whatever you like. How's that, Liz?
Great, thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I was diagnosed with a carcinoid tumor early summer, and unfortunately both of my parents passed away from rare cancers, not carcinoid, separate than this, but I wasn't that surprised. I just didn't expect to be this age and have, dealing with a tumor that's so rare. And the last few months has been a challenging journey because there's been such a difference of opinion whether about next steps or what that should be and whether there should be or not. And my family had long been involved with funding medical research because of my parents' diagnosis. And the last few months, I really have seen how much need there is in this field for more treatment options, more studies, more databases. So I am getting involved with the Caring for Carcinoid Foundation, and we'll be announcing a new initiative soon, which I really hope will be a major step forward to forwarding research.
Thank you. And any of you who'd like to write a big check, I have a wallet that's very thin, and I ride a bicycle, so I can guarantee you I don't use it. But actually, there are lots of ways of getting involved, and some who have resources, that's wonderful when you can make donations towards research or towards foundation causes. But there are other ways to get involved, and I thought Josh maybe could speak with that since you've been kind of at it from the start.
I have a little presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. I will take just a few minutes because I know we're running towards the end of the day. I think this is here. And it's more than just having resources, and resources are great. We all need them, and that actually is part of my presentation as well. But it also is how can each of us get involved, and what does that look like? And as with anything with giving and working with a community, let me see if I can get this working. Oh, there we go. Full screen. There we go. We'll go to the next slide. It is how you can get involved. And a little bit of introduction. How many of you go to a support group or any patient group that are in the room? A lot of you do. And for those of you who don't, it's a really great place. I wanted to introduce, I think Kathy's still here. Kathy, are you here? Kathy runs a support group in Sacramento and San Jose? San Jose and Fairfield. Is Tony here? Tony runs one in Roseville. I am president of NorCal Carsonettes, which is in Walnut Creek. I don't run it. I'm part of a member of a board that runs it. I think the only one here who's left is Spike. But Spike, you can raise your hand. You're a board member who's been doing this for a long time. That's our mission, but I'll let you, these slides are available. The big thing is to be available. It is great as one of these things, if you have the resources, start thinking about legacy giving. But find what interests you and offer to help. We just heard a great conversation about integrative oncology, about other conversations. Also know that whatever you work on, results don't happen overnight. We give a lot of money and a lot of time, and very rarely do they all match up as we would like them to. Most of what you will do will not be seen by others, but will be appreciated by those who help. There are so many opportunities. Last year, if you were at or this year, if you were at our conference early this year, there was the UCSF Cancer Center. And I actually went and said, well, do you have any patient advocates or any peer-to-peer stuff? And they said, well, we've had no one volunteer for NET. So the first thing that you can do if you're being treated here at Stanford, go to the Cancer Center, ask if they need people to help, because they really need people to talk to other people when they get diagnosed. Help the local patient community. Kathy and I and Tony and our board would love the help, whether you can help us with an event, help us spread the word. Talk to your oncologists or medical professionals. My journey through this started because I opened my mouth to Emily one day. And I said, I'm doing pretty well, how can I help you? And she actually gave me a lecture, well, not quite a lecture, but a stern talking to about when you're a patient advocate, you have to represent more than just yourself. You have to represent people who have disease that you don't have, that are getting treatments that you won't be getting, that you have to be able to advocate for things that may have nothing to do to you, but you have to do it with the same passion as if it was happening to you. And then she let me go think about that for a while. Understand and get involved with the national net organizations. I put some of them down here. Obviously, we're at a Caring for Carcinoid Foundation event. The Carcinoid Cancer Foundation, CCAN, NANETS, all of them need help. Understand how any organization relates to you and your disease. A lot of us do things, or people will want to donate to Stand Up for Cancer. It has nothing to do with what you're going through. But a lot of us may have things that like for instance, I went to an integrative oncology clinic. I decided to donate my time to that as well. So do what works with you. My own journey, real quick, all of our paths are different. I ended up at an integrative oncology clinic, and I joined a support group and was sooner or later asked to join the board. Dr. Abrams at the integrative oncology clinic, when he heard that I was willing to actually help him out, asked me to do an interview that ended up getting posted. I decided to write a travel blog, which turned out to be a lot more work than I ever thought it would be, because it converted into prtinfo.org. Actually took a yoga class to relieve the symptoms of fatigue from having PRT, and really found that it benefited me. And that actually led to way too much involvement, or let's see if I can get that to work. Yeah, there we go. No. For some reason that didn't show up. But you can actually see in my bio, but also it led to working on the Society of Integrative Oncology, led to working with Discover NMI and the Society of Nuclear Medicine. It led to work on Education and Research Foundation and helping give grants to young investigators for molecular imaging and research. I'm actually even a board member of the Piedmont Yoga Community, which actually gives free yoga to cancer patients. Not neuroendocrine patients, but all cancer patients. So listen, it takes time and there are setbacks. Not everyone will like or respond to what you're doing. There are no guarantees in any research project. The hours are long and the pay is pretty non-existent. Be comfortable with your level of privacy. When I first started doing this, I actually was guarding my who I was because I didn't want people in industry to know who I was in my old industry, which was being an entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley. But over time, I got more exposed, and at this point, I have no privacy. Remember that no one lives forever. You're working with cancer patients. I can't believe the oncologists that we work with us day in and day out. Many of us will pass. Everyone passes away sooner or later, but they work with a lot of people who do, and if you get involved in the cancer community, you have to be prepared for that, because we all don't respond great to treatment. And everything we've looked in clinical trials, thankfully a little less longer, but everything takes longer than you think it will take. Do what you can. Every bit of support helps. Okay? Anything that you can do, whether it's volunteering, whether it's donating, whatever it is, all of it counts and all of it helps move the ball forward. I didn't plan on this, but I had an especially good week this week. And I could not have planned this in a million years, that all these things would come together. We got our working group poster up last Friday. We also released our guidelines, our imaging guidelines for gallium-68. I actually worked with Homeland Security on Monday. For all of you patients who are coming in from PRRT, we'll have actual good guidelines for people coming back. I had congressional meetings to help keep funding for molecular imaging. We started yoga research at CSC on actual fatigue and yoga. We raised awareness of 2 national societies and via syndicated columnist. This is about how long those things took. They all came together this week. I have no way of knowing how that would happen, but it did. I've been dogging the Homeland Security for 3 years. I did say we did have syndicated columnists. Many of you know about 2 months ago, there was a column that came out in 150 newspapers saying much more like carcinoid is not cancer. They read the old textbooks, hasn't been updated, used the SEER database before it was updated to say, to see and recognize that it was, that really it is a cancer. And so this is, if you take a look at how a lot of this works together, because I was part of the NCI task force, because I could able to respond and understood a little bit about SEER, I was able to actually talk to this syndicated columnist and get him to change his mind. And in one day, got him to work on printing a retraction. And again, this is all work in the making, but it just turns out that the column started running Friday and will be in 149 papers starting next week about I was wrong, and about how he now understands that carcinoid is not just not cancer, but that this is his most important column that he'll ever publish. So all of this, and you can't do that without groundwork. This doesn't happen overnight, and that's because a lot of work of a lot of different people. I am ending a tenure of 4 years as an executive board member of the Society of Integrative Oncology. This came out this week. But again, it can't all happen at one time. The biggest thing is be available, find what interests you, and really go help. And just don't think that results will go overnight. But actually, if you work on it and you water the tree, plant some seeds, things will come out. And so that's why anyone can help and anyone can do part of all of this.
I'd have to say that if your passion is coaching your kids in Little League, that's great too. Everyone only has so much energy, and I think that we appreciate the fact that you spend an entire Saturday with us. We hope it was worthwhile. To the extent that you have any interest in following up, whether it's making some donations, we have, of course, Caring for Carcinoid. We have Christine Bauer, is that you back there? Christine's from Stanford Development. If you want to write Stanford check, they always appreciate it. Yeah. If you want to write me a check, again, I have a really old bike. I'd like a new bike. But I think that there are so many ways to contribute, and just talking to the person next to you and sharing your thoughts on your disease and your empathy for that person, what they're going through. I think that's part of what makes this type of conference a huge success. I can't imagine having the energy that Josh has and putting it towards all of those things, but I tell you, he's had experience in all of these, and he can tell you where you might find your passion and how best to make the most of that. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I'd let Pam and Ron give some final comments. Thank you.
So thanks to all of you for coming and staying to the bitter end. I think thank you to all of the speakers who provided, a wonderful day for all of us. It's a real privilege to be a physician taking care of many of you and to be a researcher in this field. I'm motivated by today to continue doing what we do.
First of all, I just want to say, please let us know how this day was for you. Back to the panel before this one, we can always learn from you what works, what doesn't, how we can make it more accessible. So there will be a feedback form that will be online, and we'll send it to each of you individually. So please add your comments. Don't just check things off. I want to thank our terrific partners at Stanford, the terrific faculty who've been with us today, the patients who've shared their stories. It's just been a very moving day for me, as well as I'm sure for many of you have talked through during the day. I also can't tell you how thrilled and moved I am, excited by our agenda going forward and the progress we're making, and words can't express how grateful we are to Elizabeth Goldhirsch-Yellen for this new chapter I think you're going to see that's going to unfold over these next few weeks. So please join us if you can in that, because I think our work has just begun, and the progress, as several people said today, is just starting to pick up in a way that I think is going to make, I hope, a difference in every one of your lives. So with that, are we ready to recess?
Ready to, and there, I think, is food and
We
more
have cookies
posters
and if anybody was impolite and was following the Stanford game, I'd love to have a score.
How about the Red Sox? Red Sox, anybody?
yes. What is the Red Sox score?
Anyway,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah.